When you look at the incredible landscape on planet Earth, all the different terrains, the varying soil conditions, the awesome water features, oceans, lakes, rivers, streams, the waterfalls, the different climates, the huge amounts of plants and ground covers, the requirements are so varied. Can one fathom how big a project that was? When God designed the landscape project for planet Earth, He was so genius, He designed it in such a way He would never have to show up to work. It is completely self-sustained. And I was raised as a gardener. My parents grew all of our food in Los Angeles as I grew up, and I remember as a 5-year-old kid, my dad on Saturday morning waking us up and saying, well, we got to head off into the to the horse stables and get some horse manure today. So we went down to a rental yard and got a trailer and went to the horse stables and loaded up manure and came home and spread it out in the garden and spaded it in. And as kids, we wore shovels out, spading in heavy clay ground, mixing soil and having a garden. It was wonderful growing up because there's never any time we were hungry. We could go outside and pick fresh vegetables and fruit all the time. And just down in California, there's nothing you couldn't grow. So it was just, we had it all year long. So it was really great. And so as I started to, grow up and I got married and I had some children and I decided, Los Angeles is no longer a place fit for human habitation as far as I was concerned. It was getting really crowded and smoggy and just not safe. And so I thought I want to move to a place where I can continue to do this and grow fresh food for my family, have clean water, clean air. So we came up here to the Olympic Peninsula of Washington. We have a beautiful place. But we built a house and we faced a real challenge. We drilled a well, went 213 feet and got half a gallon a minute. And if you're doing the math and thinking about that, that's not enough water to do a garden. I'll never forget as long as I live. It was August 1979. It was a great year to build a house. Didn't rain all summer, but boy, in August, all this grass was totally dead. The road coming in was all dust. And I'm looking at that and saying, God, how am I going to grow fruits without water? And it was so incredible. I hear inside, he says, well, you're looking at the wrong thing. Turn around, look at your trees. And I pushed enough out when I built the house that I knew they had shallow roots. And I says, God, you really have my attention. If you can show me how you do these without irrigation, I can do an orchard. So I went out to the woods of the Fork and I started moving this material underneath the trees, and I was totally amazed. This beautiful, soft, black, damp, incredible compost. When I saw that, I says, well, I can do this. This makes sense. So I started planting the trees out there, and at that time I had straw and sheep manure. Now I'm using wood chips, and it's been amazing. This orchard's been here 31 years now. It's never been watered or fertilized once. It goes through droughts or whatever, and it's just every year it gets better. As I was doing this orchard, experiencing these incredible results, because I was a creature of habit, and because our nature is to do things as we were taught and not to inquire from God, I says, okay, God, thanks for the help, but I can handle this on my own. And so for, I think, probably 17 years, I was out here diligently rototilling, hauling in organic material. You can see a place over here, my major rock pile. This is my altar. This is where all the rocks that came out of my garden over here. And I'm just doing this stuff, and I'm feeling I'm on this treadmill, just running in place, going nowhere, feeling like, oh, I'm going to keep up with this. Every spring, the ground is totally muddy and wet. When I tilled it, it turned to weeds in 5 to 7 days, solid green with weeds. I planted things 3 feet apart so I can rototill with it, do the weeding with the tiller, and it was just labor intensive. And one day I got out my orchard. I don't know what motivated me. I got on my knees and I started moving these wood chips, and I'm down to my elbow in this beautiful black compost. And I got up and started screaming. I was so angry. I said, there's something wrong with this picture. I have been killing myself to get this in my garden. I don't have it. I didn't do anything here. And I hear inside, well, it works in your garden the same way. You didn't ask. I was so angry. I threw that tiller away and I started covering my garden with wood chips. I always say people the greatest gift God gave me was that lousy well, because it opened me up to Him and to show me His incredible, work in creation. I've been a gardener for 55 years. I've done tilling, done all that stuff, and it's so amazing now. My only tool is a rake, and it's just so easy and so simple, and the production is so superior to whatever. I saw how easy and simple this was, I says, God, where do we lose it? Why are we doing this? And it was so interesting. He took me right back to Genesis in the beginning. And if you look at in the beginning, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, they had this beautiful, relaxing day in the garden. And every afternoon and evening, God would come down and walk with them through the garden. And I'm sure as he walked through the garden, he would just share with them things that they saw in the garden that day about himself. Did you notice this? This is my character. This is all about me, kind of thing. And I'm sure they just had this incredible time, totally relaxed, no stress, every day. But when man sinned, the scripture said things are going to change. And the wording is, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to raise food. Thistles and thorns and weeds are going to compete with you. And the next verse says, and man began to till the soil. You see, man never cultivated in the garden. He tended the garden, but he never disturbed the ground. And when man got disconnected from God, he began to till the soil. The whole issue is so very simple. It's all about cover. Nowhere in nature where man has not been do you ever see exposed dirt. That only happens when man comes and takes the cover. Everywhere in nature where man has not been, it's either covered with needles and leaves or grasses, but the ground is covered. And the reason is because the ground is a living organism. And as all living organisms, such as ourselves, we have skin to protect us. The animals have fur. Fish have scales. Birds have feathers. And the soil is a living organism. And God has designed it and made it so it's always covered with something. And when you take the cover off, it becomes vulnerable and it gets lost. And this is the thing that amazes me about us as intelligent human beings, how we don't see it, because we've been experiencing it for thousands of years in a negative way. We're all around us, all through creation. Everything's just growing beautifully with no work. And we work hard to fail. When we came to the Midwest here 200 years ago, there was 8 to 12 feet of beautiful topsoil. I mean, gorgeous stuff. And if you've ever flown across the Midwest and you look down at the ground, it's almost scary. It's just parched, cracked, hard, totally desolate. Almost looks like desert. There's 8 inches of topsoil today because it's all blown and washed away, and they're still cultivating. This is not working, and we're losing topsoil. And topsoil in nature, it takes 100 years to build an inch of topsoil. I mean, it is criminal and incredibly devastating what we've done to the planet.
Soil conservation people in the Midwest will tell you that it's okay to lose around 4 tons of soil per acre per year. I don't believe, I may be wrong, I don't believe that soil is forming at the rate of 4 tons per acre per year. When the soil erodes, the organic matter erodes and all the nutrients that were in the soil erode, and that's just gone. It's just a resource that isn't there anymore.
I found that if I try to help nature at any level, I mess it up. My approach now is just to look what it does and it says, talk to me, show me what you're doing, because I want to copy it, because it does it the best. I have 2 properties that I'm doing this on. This one here, the ground is clay and rock. It would be impossible to farm. It would be considered from the agricultural point of view as marginal soil. The other place I have is 80% rock, totally gravel pit. You couldn't possibly till it. You couldn't possibly cultivate it. And in both of those places, I'm experiencing the most incredible, beautiful gardens. I love that scripture where it says, as we behold the Lord, we're being changed from glory to glory. And I find that anything that comes in contact with God gets changed, including clay and rock and rock. It's just so awesome to take people and take them back and show them my incredible ground. You can't even break with a pick and walk on this stuff. It's totally buoyant. Everything's just growing great, and I didn't do anything. I just put the cover down and God does it all. Whatever organic, natural thing you have at your disposal, it will work. And I've used everything from straw, grass clippings, leaves, animal manures, rocks. But having used them all, I come back to wood chips and I see where it's been for a while and what it's done. It is my favorite. It just is the nicest thing to use. First of all, when I speak of wood chips, I want to delineate between wood chips and other things that people put in the same category, such as bark or shavings or sawdust. Wood chips, when I say wood chips, I'm referring to branches that have been chipped. Branches of trees, which is about 90% needles and leaves, that have gone through a chipper or a tub grinder. You want to get it from the source, either a tree service or someplace who has a good amount of it, and because the bag's just too small and too expensive. If you live in an area where you have local tree services, people that are trimming trees or taking them down, I would just get in the phone book and look for those kind of people, and that would be a great source. In most cases, to them, it's something they've got to get rid of, and so they're looking for places to get rid of it, so it shouldn't be a problem. Just this whole area gets filled. Just pack it in tight. As much as you can bring, man. I'll use it.
In the local area here, we remove hazard trees and trimming and view removals and different things to enhance views, and so this is a byproduct of that operation. We've dumped chips here for Paul for a lot of years. And, 12? Okay, 12 years. In Paul's case, this is so handy for us because the location, it actually saves us time. So we give it to Paul. It's handy for us to get rid of the material. So it's getting more and more common for people to call us wanting chips.
The thing about mulch is pretty much in every municipality there's mulch available, because someone's chopping a tree down, somebody's cutting a tree, somebody's shredding leaves. If we can try and get things that are as close as possible to us, maybe it's your neighbor that's chipping up a tree next door, then that's the best product for you.
I'm an arborist. I prune trees for a living, and for me it's an art form, and I'm so thankful to be able to do it because it's a gift that I have, and it's just something that's just so pleasing and so pleasurable. You know, it's interesting that the scripture talks about pruning. There in John 15, Jesus is saying that I am the vine and you are the branches, and my Father is the husbandman. He's the one who maintains and cares for it all. And it goes on to say that he prunes the trees for what purpose? So they'll bear more fruit. And I love these things about God because they're so much bigger than I. When I try to figure that out, it makes no sense. If I'm cutting a tree, taking branches off, it would make sense to me from a mathematical point of view. I'm reducing its capacity to bear fruit. But God is saying he prunes so it'll bear more fruit. And it's just this incredible, beautiful illustration of God, how his whole principle is it's in giving you receive. And so with the tree, when you're taking stuff out of it and it's giving of itself, that process develops it and strengthens it and encourages it to produce more fruit. And in my experience, I totally see it. People will come to my orchard here, you know, this time of year, and you can't even walk through it. And they'll come after I prune it in January, and they says, "What happened to your trees? They're naked. I mean, what'd you do to them?" I says, "Well, come back in September. They'll be all touching, you know." And I'm just basically, you know, making room for them to fill in, you know, and they just produce so heavily every year. And it's amazing how much comes out. But they come right back and produce tremendously. And I'm finding, I always tell people, if you want a tree to grow, the most stimulating thing you can do to it is cut it. Cutting it will way surpass fertilizing, watering, anything else. Nothing compares to the effect of pruning. Every time I prune, I've got all these good branches to chip up and put back, and every year it happens over again, and it's endless, and it's totally free, provided by God. And it's just, again, it's such a beautiful picture of his character.
My name's Steve Johnson. I run what's called the Lazy J Tree Farm. Most of the farm is in Christmas trees, fruit orchards, vegetable operation, and then the compost facility here. I only do yard waste through my facility. Normal yard waste that comes in, as long as you've got fairly good green coming in, with the yard waste, has the right carbon-nitrogen ratio to compost properly. I ran a chipper for years, and you have to pick up the material and put it into the chipper, and after a while it's just too much labor and energy for what you're getting out of it. And so the tub grinder is really a good way to put the material through fast, and you never handle it by hand. Takes a lot of material to farm with it.
You know what's so interesting about this? Track with me. I came across this revelation the other day. These wood chips, when the wind blows, don't move.
No, they stay there.
And they're lighter than dirt.
Exactly.
You track with that. That's bigger than me. And I love it. It's nature. It's so awesome how the Creator designed this. I mean, there's no tilling, there's no digging, there's no... This is it. This is the only tool I need. Man, it is awesome.
My roses love it.
Everything loves it. Well, I just went to the place where they make all this good compost and got a nice load of it. The last time I put this here was about 3 years ago. And I think with this application, it'll probably go maybe 4 or 5 years. I'm finding that this stuff is like compounding interest. It gains in time, and you have to put less and less down as time goes on. Look how the leaves, I just love the color of them, and just how succulent and healthy they are. There it is. There's 2 words I want you to think about when you come here. Sustainable permaculture. Everything you see here was created in nature for free, and it's renewable. It was for liberty Christ came to set us free. Everything about God is free and sets free. And I love that about his character, and it's so beautifully just, exemplified and shown in nature. This is just so freeing. And I love that scripture where he says, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." Now you have to ask the question, why do we labor? And why are we heavy laden? It's because of the fall. He says, "Take my yoke upon you." And what do we use the yoke for? That's what we attach the oxen or the animals to some device to cultivate the ground. And Jesus says, "I don't do things like you. Follow me around and learn from me. My yoke is easy and my burden is light." And in this incredible environment, this thing that God has created, he shows his magnanimous, awesome, giving, generous nature. And it is so beautiful in comparison to the man approach of tilling and putting back, constantly being on a treadmill running, never getting on top of it. All these wood chips just sit here. I don't do a thing. Anytime I choose to plant, put a seed in, it totally thrives. If I don't use it, it just waits for me and develops, richer qualities. And in the meantime, it doesn't blow away, it doesn't turn to weeds, and it just stays. Where conversely, anything that I do, if I don't stay right on it, maintain it, I lose it, kind of thing. I'm a slave to it. And again, it's just this incredible quality of God of just setting us free. What I find quite interesting is that the issues we have in agriculture, and I'll just list them: soil preparation, fertilization, irrigation, weed control, pest issues, crop rotation, pH issues, none of those issues exist in nature. And what I'm finding at my place, none of them exist here either. And I feel just so thankful to be set free from that.